Mic check 1 2 3. Mic check 1 2 3. Mic check 1 2. Hello, my name is Pramod, and I am very happy to give this test today. I am giving this test for my practice. Blue is the most popular color. Food researchers disagree. When humans searched for food, they learned to avoid toxic or spoiled subjects, which were often blue, black, or purple. When food dyed blue is served to study subjects, they lose appetite. It's the most popular. Blue is the most popular color. Food researchers disagree. When humans search for food, they learn to avoid toxic or spoiled objects, which were often blue, black, or purple. When food dyed blue is served to study subjects, they lose appetite. Provides a different set of functions, behaviors, and controls. The brain is divided into two hemispheres called the left and right hemispheres. Each hemisphere provides a different set of functions, behaviors, and controls. The right hemisphere is often called the creative side of the brain, while the left hemisphere is the logical or analytic side of the brain. The Grand Canyon is 277 miles long, up to 18 miles wide, and attains a depth of over a mile. While the specific geological processes and timing that form the Grand Canyon are the subject of debate by geologists, recent evidence suggests that Colorado River established its course through the canyon at least 17 million years ago. At least 17 million. The Grand Canyon is 277 miles long, up to 18 miles wide, and attains a depth of over a mile. While the specific geological processes and timing that form the Grand Canyon are the subject of debate by geologists, recent evidence suggests the Colorado River established its course through the canyon at least 17 million years ago. Electronic discourse is one form of interactive electronic communication. Electronic discourse is one form of interactive electronic communication. In this study, we reserve the term for the two-directional text in which one person using a keyboard writes language that appears on the sender's monitor and is transmitted to the monitor of a recipient who responds by keyboard. Networking is easy and Networking is easy and fun because it taps into this human predilection to talk about ourselves when asked. Consider successful networking as little more than the process of guiding a person to tell you about his life, what he is doing, the company that employs him, and his current industry. What's more, it is akimbo. This must be one of the odder looking words in the language and puzzles us in part because it doesn't seem to have any relatives. What's more, it is now virtually a fossil word. Until recently, almost invariably found in arms akimbo, a posture in which a person stands with hands on hips and elbows sharply bent outward, once signaling impatience, hostility, or contempt. Cheerful sunny yellow is an attention getter. While it is considered an optimistic color, people lose their tempers more often in yellow rooms and babies will cry more. It is the most difficult color for the eye to take in, so it can be overpowering if overused. Yellow enhances concentration, hence its use for legal pads. It also speeds metabolism.
You can only choose one subject from biology and chemistry.
You can only choose one subject from biology and chemistry.
Robert Frost thinks the rural area is livable for people in New England.
Robert Frost thinks that rural areas is livable for the people in England.
Ideally, free trade is mutually beneficial for both trading partners.
Ideally, free trading is mutually beneficial for both trading partners.
We will study the following two pictures in the next lecture.
We will study the following two pictures in next lectures.
I didn't agree with the author's argument, but his presentation was good.
I didn't agree with the author's agree, but its presentation was good.
We need to make sure the school principal knows about the changes.
We need to make sure the school principal know about the changes.
The older equipment has been put at the back of the building.
The older equipment has been put at the back of the building.
We're constantly looking for ways to bring industry and agriculture closer together.
We are constantly looking for ways to bring agriculture and industry together.
Only those who are over 18 years of age are eligible to open a bank account in our bank.
Only those who are 18 years above are eligible to open bank account in our bank.
In 1880, cycling became a major phenomenon in Europe.
In 1880, cycling became a major phenomenon in Europe.
I think your watch is fast. You need to reset it.
I think your watch is fast. You need to reset it. The image gives information about recycle. The image gives information about collect and recycle. The primary feature of the image is sort. The image gives information about collect and recycle. The primary feature of the image is short and seared. Furthermore, it conveys information about mold and manufactures. It also shows about assemble and ship. Moreover, it compares between purchase and use. The first step is collect and recycle, and the last step is delivery. Overall, the picture gives information about recycling process. The image gives information about journey made by man. Firstly, it shows data about man and woman. The primary feature of the image is United Kingdom and 2006. Furthermore, it conveys information about walking and visit friends. Furthermore, it conveys information about education and shopping. Moreover, it compares between personal business and school run. The first element is holiday day trip, and the second element is sport entertainment. To conclude, the picture is about percentage of men and women. The image gives information about most common language. The primary feature of the image is the word. Firstly, it shows data about Mandarin Chinese and Hindi. Furthermore, it conveys information about English and Spanish. Moreover, it compares between Bengali, India and Bangladesh. The highest element is 100. The image gives information about the most common language in the world. The primary feature of the image is number of native speakers. Firstly, it shows data about Mandarin Chinese and Hindi India. Furthermore, it conveys information about English and Spanish. Moreover, it compares between India and Bangladesh. The highest country number is 104 and the lowest number is 9. To conclude, the picture is about the native speakers.
As Joanne pointed out, only one country, tiny little Bhutan, wedged between China and India, has adopted the gross national happiness as the central index of government policy, and actually has had a good deal of success in education and in health and in economic growth and in environmental preservation, and they have a rather sophisticated way of measuring the effects of different policies on people's happiness. But they are the only country to go that far. But you're now beginning to get other countries interested enough to do kind of white paper policy analyses about whether happiness research, what effects would it have if we used it more for public policy. You're beginning to get countries like Australia, France, Great Britain that are considering publishing regular statistics on happiness. So it's beginning to become a subject of greater interest for policymakers and legislators in different advanced countries.
Bhutan was the main topic of the lecture. Firstly, the speaker told about gross national happiness. He further discussed about success in education and health. Furthermore, he explained about economic growth and environment conservation. Additionally, he highlighted information about happiness and research. Moreover, he presented information about Australia and France. Towards the end, the speaker said about subject of greater interest. Towards the end, the speaker provided details about policymakers. In conclusion, the speaker focused on advanced country.
What century are we now?
21st century. 21st century.
What do we call the ceremony where people get married?
Marriage ceremony, wedding, marriage.
What is the occupation that transfers one language to another language?
Translator, tourist guide, translator.
Apart from coffee and hot chocolate, what beverages also contain caffeine?
Coffee, hot chocolate, iced tea, cake.
What is the opposite of division in mathematics?
Multiplication, division, addition, subtraction.
Which sense is related to your ears?
Hearing, sound, hearing.
The amount of money drug companies spend on TV ads has doubled in recent years, and it's no wonder. Studies show the commercials work. Consumers go to their doctors with a suggestion for a prescription drug they saw advertised on TV. Now, a study in the Annals of Family Medicine raises questions about the message these ads promote. NPR's Patty Naiman reports.
You are most likely to see drug ads during prime time, especially around the news. Researchers analyzed 38 ads aimed at people with conditions like hypertension, herpes, high cholesterol, depression, arthritis, and allergies. The drug industry says these ads arm consumers with information, but researchers found that though the information was technically accurate, the tone was misleading. UCLA psychologist Dominic Frosch headed the study.
What we would see in these ads is that before taking the prescription drug, the character's life was out of control. And the loss of control really extended beyond just the impact of the health condition.
For example, herpes patients were portrayed as being incapacitated for days, insomniacs utterly out of sync on the job, and depressed patients friendless and boring at parties.
When the character is then shown taking the drug, he then magically regains complete control of his life.
None of the ads, of course, mentioned lifestyle changes that could also help treat the condition. After all, it's mass marketing. But in this case, Frosch says, prescription medications are not like soap.
Listen to part of a talk in an introductory art class. The professor is talking about choosing a career in the arts.
Before you undertake a career in the arts, there are a number of factors to consider. Whether your goal is to be an actor or an animator, a saxophonist or a sculptor, talent is an essential consideration. But talent alone won't guarantee a successful career in the arts. You also need training, experience, and self-discipline. Most importantly, however, you should realize that a career in the arts requires a personal sense of commitment, a calling, because art does have a history of insecure employment. A lot of artists find it difficult, even impossible, to live on the money they make from their art. Most have to supplement their income by teaching or by working behind the scenes or by doing other work not related to the arts.
In your opinion, what's the best way for us to know if we really have a calling to art?
Well, those of you who are interested in art as a career should talk with arts professionals or work in the arts yourselves. Professionals can give good first-hand advice, but experience is the best way to get a feel for the field.
What kind of experience? I mean, how do we get started?
Experience doesn't have to be formal. It can be part-time or volunteer work. For example, if you want to be a photographer or graphic designer, you could work for your school newspaper. Or if your interest is acting, you could start out in community theater. The important thing is getting started, spending time doing something in your chosen medium.
Number 5.
For all his fame and celebration, William Shakespeare remains a mysterious figure with regards to personal history. There are just two primary sources for information on the bard: his works and various legal and church documents that have survived from Elizabethan times. Naturally, there are many gaps in this body of information, which tells us little about Shakespeare the man.
Brooke and her colleague Mark Newman studied who swapped messages with whom on a popular online dating platform in the month of January 2014. They categorized users by desirability using PageRank, one of the algorithms behind search technology. Essentially, if you receive a dozen messages from desirable users, you must be more desirable than someone who receives the same number of messages from average users. And then they asked, how far out of their league do online daters tend to go when pursuing a partner?
I think people are optimistic realists.
In other words, they found that both men and women tended to pursue mates just 25% more desirable than themselves.
So they're being optimistic, but they're also taking into account their own relative position within this overall desirability hierarchy.
And the study did have a few more lessons for people on the market.
I think one of the take-home messages from the study is women could probably afford to be more aspirational in their mate pursuit.
In animals, a movement is coordinated by a cluster of neurons in the spinal cord called the central contract pattern generator, or CPG. This produces signals that drive muscles to contract rhythmically in a way that produces running or walking, depending on the pattern of pulse. A simple signal from the brain instructs the CPG to switch between modes such as going from a standstill to walking.
All of you, of course, can read. There was a time, however, when you couldn't. Yet you all learned. Do you remember how you did that? There are several methods teachers use to teach reading. You probably learned by using a combination of them. There are 4 main methods of teaching reading. The first and most common is the phonics method. Here's how teachers use phonics. First, they teach their students the alphabet. So the students learn the letters and which sounds each one makes. The instructors also teach the students how letters can blend together. Then they often show the students sentences with similar sounds. For example, the cat sat on the hat. How now, brown cow? Or how about this one? There's a mouse in the house. You remember those, right? Well, as students learn more sounds, they learn more words. This helps them improve their vocabulary level. Soon, students who use the phonics method are able to read new words and sound them out for themselves. I think you can see why this method is so successful. That's the first method, but like I said, there are 3 more ways. The next is the look and say method. This basically teaches children to recognize words and remember how to say them. This involves a lot of memorization. Flashcards are often used to accomplish this. You probably used this method in the past as well, right?
There is a small town in Belgium called Waterloo. This small town became very famous because of Napoleon's last battle. A lot of his soldiers were killed and injured at Waterloo. As a result, he was removed from his emperor's throne and sent to St. Helena, where he died in 1821.
We all get depressed. Bad stuff happens to us. We all get depressed. We feel lousy. We feel withdrawn. We feel sort of a sense of grief, and we're not taking much pleasure, and we withdraw. And then we get better. We cope. We heal. We deal with things in life. What's the deal with you that you can't do that? And there's this lurking sense, given that all of us have periods of being depressed and come out the other end. When you look at people who instead go down and stay down there to this crippling extent, there's always this little voice between the lines there of, come on, pull yourself together. We all deal with this sort of thing. I will make the argument throughout here that depression is as real of a biological disorder as is juvenile diabetes. And you don't sit down a diabetic and say, oh, come on, what's with this insulin stuff? Stop babying yourself and pull it together. You will see this is just as much of a biological.
Avalanches are a constant threat on mountain highways. The Rogers Pass stretch of the Trans-Canada is at risk of being buried in snow from November to April every year. This is why the highway now has a sophisticated defense system. The best way, it's important to control an avalanche when it's small, so a slide is set off while it's still small before it builds up into a serious danger. A team of snow technicians monitors the snowpack. They sort of read the snow and try to predict when it's likely to slide. They study data from the weather stations in the mountains. As the danger increases, they drop explosives onto test slopes to see if the snow can be made.
Height is correlated with a lot of things. Up to a certain height, taller people make more money than the vertically challenged, and the taller presidential candidate almost always wins. Now a study finds that your height as an adult has a profound effect on your perception of your health. Short people judge their health to be worse than average or tall people judge theirs. The research was published in the journal Clinical Endocrinology. Data for the study came from the 2003 Health Survey for England. More than 14,000 participants filled out questionnaires and had their heights measured. The study only looked at how good the subject thought his or her health was, not their actual health. Questions focused on 5 areas: mobility, self-care, normal activities, pain or discomfort, and anxiety or depression. Men shorter than about 5'4" and women shorter than 5 feet reported the worst impressions, but small increases in height at the low end had much bigger effects on perception than the same increases among taller people. Other studies have shown, ironically, that shorter people on average actually live longer. This is going to surprise anybody who's ever been shaken awake by a quake in Southern California, but geologists say that the Los Angeles basin is actually in a period of low seismic activity and has been for about the last 1,000 years. That's according to research published in the September issue of the journal Geology. The seismic lull is marked by relatively smaller and fewer earthquakes. That's compared with other periods with a lot of rumbling and crumbling. The period of big seismic activity in the LA basin that ended 1,000 years ago lasted about 4,000 years. Long-term data on seismic activity indicate that the calm period lasts about 1,500 to 2,000 years, which gives LA another 500 to 1,000 years off. Now, the researchers are specifically referring to what's called the Urban Fault Network, which is under the LA metropolitan area. It does not include the San Andreas Fault, which can still throw the occasional big one around. About 10 major San Andreas biggies have happened during the current LA basin lull. Nevertheless, if the current lull ends in the next millennium, LA's future could be very shaky. The 1976 Mars Viking landers didn't find any life on the red planet, but maybe they weren't looking right, because at least one researcher thinks that 0.1% of the Martian soil tested by the Vikings could actually have had a biological origin. The Dutch researcher Joop Houtcooper presented his ideas on August 24th at the meeting of the European Planetary Science Congress in Potsdam. One Viking test measured unexplained rises in oxygen and carbon dioxide when it was incubating some soil samples. Houtkooper conjectures that the incredibly dry and cold surface of Mars might be home to living cells. Such cells, however, would need to be filled with a mixture of water and hydrogen peroxide, which could stay liquid in the harsh conditions. And if the Viking landers happen to scoop up any of these strange cells, their breakdown products would be in line with the oxygen and carbon dioxide measured. The biomass would then represent 0.1% of the Martian soil by weight, which is interestingly comparable to levels found in some Antarctic permafrost. Thanks for the minute. For Scientific American's 60-Second Science, I'm Steve Mirsky.
Before architecture was invented, humans lived in underground houses. Participation rate in the study of language learning exceeded the expectations. There are many concerns about the research, for example, financial considerations.
The key witnesses to the event have conflicting recollections.